The year is 1869, and the Oregon Territory is a land of wild beauty and untamed chaos, a place where the sun beats relentlessly against the earth and dust swirls in every corner of the small, makeshift outpost along the Oregon Trail. It's a harsh land where survival is never guaranteed, and every day feels like a battle against the elements and the unforgiving world around them. But today, something strange is stirring in the air, something that will change the course of lives forever. The men gather in a rough, makeshift square, their rough hands clenching onto the edges of worn hats, eyes filled with curiosity and impatience. Today, it's not timber they're chopping or livestock they're trading. It's a woman. She's been sold, but not in the way anyone would expect. On a rickety wooden platform, a figure stands covered in a simple sackcloth, hiding her face, hiding her identity. She says nothing, offers nothing. She's silent, a mystery waiting to be bought. The auctioneer, a man whose voice has seen too many harsh days, calls out in his gravelly tone. $2 to start, he says, his voice bouncing off the distant hills. The crowd chuckles. $2 for a woman whose name no one knows, whose face is hidden beneath a sack. Laughter spreads among the crowd, but one man stands apart. Silas Boone, a lumberjack whose hands are calloused from years of splitting timber and whose mind has been shaped by the wilderness, steps forward. He's not like the others. Where the men around him see a chance to take advantage, he sees something more. "I'm not buying a face," Silas says, his voice firm, unwavering. "I'm marrying a person." His words hang in the air like a sudden storm. Silence falls over the crowd, a strange, almost sacred moment of stillness. The auctioneer looks at him for a long moment before nodding, acknowledging the seriousness in Silas's voice. "I'll take her," Silas declares. The crowd is stunned. The bid has been made, and the auctioneer's gavel falls. The price is set, but Silas isn't here for a bargain or a fleeting moment. He's here for something much deeper. As he steps forward, the sackcloth-clad figure before him doesn't speak, but there's something in the air, something about the way the wind moves through the trees, the way the light shifts around them. Silas doesn't know it yet, but the moment he's about to experience will change everything. As Silas takes the woman's arm and leads her away from the stage, something strange begins to happen. It's in the way the wind picks up, swirling around them as if it's trying to speak, to tell them both something. The crowd still watches, but Silas doesn't care. He's already focused on her, on the woman who has been sold like cattle, hidden away beneath a sack, carrying a story no one else knows. But then, when the auctioneer asks her name, her response is quiet, almost lost in the wind. Annabelle Crow. The name hits Silas like a thunderclap. Annabelle Crow, the woman who saved his life 3 winters ago deep in the wilderness of Oregon. The woman whose voice had been his only guide in a snowstorm that nearly killed him. He had never forgotten her voice, not once. The woman who had brought him back from the brink of death now stands before him. His heart skips a beat. Annabelle Crow. He had heard that name in the wilds, in a snowstorm, in a moment when everything had seemed lost. But now, here she is, in the flesh, a mystery wrapped in sackcloth. She doesn't recognize him. She doesn't know who he is, not yet. But he knows her. He knows her name, and he knows the weight of that name. It's a name filled with pain, with survival, with something more than what this world has given her. He doesn't know her story yet, but he knows this. She is not just some woman to be bought or sold. She's a person. She's a survivor. And somehow that makes everything feel different. As they walk in silence, the weight of their shared history doesn't need to be spoken. It hangs between them, not as a burden, but as a bond, a thread that ties their fates together in ways neither of them fully understands. The wilderness around them, once harsh and cold, suddenly seems warmer. There is something powerful in their silence. something deep and unspoken. They are not just two strangers walking through the wilds. They are survivors linked by something bigger than themselves. The journey to Silas's cabin is long and quiet. The forest around them seems to watch, as if curious about the two people walking through it. Silas doesn't speak much. He's a man of few words, a man who's learned that silence often speaks louder than any words could. Annabelle, for her part, doesn't speak at all. Her head is still covered in the sackcloth, and her steps are hesitant, unsure. But when they reach the cabin, something changes. Annabelle steps inside, her movements tentative, as though she's not entirely sure she belongs here. The cabin is small, nothing more than a simple structure built with hard-earned labor, but it's a home, a place of refuge in the midst of a land that has seen too much suffering. Silas sets to work. He doesn't rush her, doesn't press her. He simply goes about his business, chopping wood, preparing what little food he has, and allowing Annabelle the space she needs. She's not ready to speak, and he understands that. She's been through too much, seen too much pain, to be forced into something she's not ready for. He hands her a bowl of soup, the steam rising from it in gentle curls. "I used to make 2 bowls," he says, his voice low, "even when there was no one to eat the second." Annabelle looks up, her eyes meeting his for the first time. There's something in her gaze, a flicker of recognition, of gratitude, but also something else, something more fragile. She reaches for the bowl. Slowly, carefully, as if testing the waters, she brings it to her lips, and for the first time in a long while, she eats. It's not much, just soup, but in that moment, it's everything. The quiet bond that is forming between them doesn't need words. It's in the simple gesture of sharing a meal. It's in the silence between them where words aren't necessary because understanding is. They are two people who have been broken in their own ways, but here, in this cabin, in this moment, they are beginning to heal together. As the days pass, the silence between Silas and Annabelle becomes more comfortable. The cabin, once filled with the weight of uncertainty, now feels like a home. But still, there are things left unsaid. Annabelle keeps the sackcloth tightly tied around her head, as if it's not just hiding her face, but shielding her from something deeper. Silas doesn't ask. He doesn't need to. He's been broken too. He's lost too. He knows what it's like to wear a mask, to hide from the world, to bury the scars that run deeper than skin. But there's something in the way Annabelle moves, something in the way she holds herself, that tells him her scars are not just physical. They are emotional, mental. She's been through things that no one should ever have to endure. And yet, here she is, surviving. Jonas once knew a woman who wore a scar of her own, a woman he lost. He feels the same pull toward Annabelle, the same fierce loyalty. He wants to help her, to fix what's been broken, but he knows better than anyone that healing is not something that can be rushed. In the silence of their days together, Silas doesn't push Annabelle to open up. He doesn't ask about the things she hides. He simply respects them, respects her. And in doing so, he begins to understand something powerful. He doesn't need to know her past. All he needs to know is that she's here now, and that's enough. The days continue to pass quietly in the cabin, with each one blending into the next. Silas and Annabelle settle into a rhythm, an unspoken understanding between them that doesn't require words. They both know the hardships of survival in the Wild West, and in this moment of shared solitude, there is peace in knowing they don't have to explain themselves. But one evening, as the fire crackles low in the hearth and the shadows stretch across the room, Annabelle speaks. It's the first time in days that she's broken the silence, and her voice is soft, trembling with something deeper than words. "I didn't ask for this life," she says quietly, her hands twisting in her lap. "I didn't choose it. I was sold like cattle, no name, no face, just a price. I've never been anyone's choice. The words hit Silas like a hammer. He knew she had a past, but hearing it laid bare in this quiet moment from her own lips is different. Her story is not one of survival through strength or power. It's a story of survival through submission, through being stripped of identity, of humanity. She was nothing more than a commodity to be traded. Annabelle continues, her voice still barely above a whisper. The man who bought me before, he made sure I knew my place. I was nothing but a slave, a piece of property to be hidden away, to be forgotten. The sackcloth. It was his way of keeping me invisible, keeping me from being anything other than what he wanted me to be. Silas doesn't speak immediately. He's not sure what to say. His own past is full of pain, but his pain has always been born of choice. He chose the woods. He chose the wilderness. Annabelle, on the other hand, was chosen. She was sold. As her words settle in the room, Silas looks at her, really looks at her for the first time. He sees beyond the sackcloth, beyond the scars, beyond the silence. He sees a woman who has fought for her life in ways that no one should have to. And in that moment, something shifts between them. "I'm sorry," Silas finally says, his voice low. "You didn't deserve that. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Annabelle looks up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. She doesn't say anything in return, but there's something in her gaze that tells him everything he needs to know. For the first time, she's not hiding behind the cloth. For the first time, she's letting someone see her, not the woman of sackcloth and shame, but the woman who has endured, who has survived. This moment, this revelation, marks the start of something new between them. It's not just a bond built on survival anymore. It's a bond built on truth, on honesty. Silas doesn't need to know all the details of her past. He doesn't need to understand everything she's been through. He simply needs to be there, to stand by her as she faces the ghosts of her past. And in return, Annabelle is beginning to trust him, to let him in. It's not love, not yet, but it's a beginning. No story in the Wild West is complete without trouble. It always finds its way in, no matter how hard you try to keep it out. And just as Silas and Annabelle begin to build their fragile peace, trouble arrives in the form of a man named Cutter. Cutter is a bounty hunter, a man with a sharp eye for tracking and an even sharper sense for trouble. He's been searching for Annabelle, tracking her through the whispers and rumors that trail behind her like a shadow. He doesn't know her name, not yet, but he knows her face, or rather, the face he's heard described, the face behind the sackcloth. He arrives at the cabin one afternoon, his boots kicking up the dust as he approaches the small home. He's not interested in peace or justice. He's interested in finding Annabelle, bringing her back to the man who once owned her, and collecting his reward. The bounty on her head is enough to make a man's fortune. Annabelle, sensing the danger, immediately feels the walls of her past close in around her again. The fear, the shame, the feeling of being sold, it all comes rushing back. She's not the woman who was bought at an auction anymore. She's not the woman who cowers behind a sackcloth. But facing Cutter brings it all back, and for a moment, she feels small again. Silas, however, is not afraid. He's spent his life in the wilderness, facing down dangers worse than any bounty hunter. But this is different. Cutter is no simple threat. He's a man who knows how to track, how to hunt, how to get what he wants. And he wants Annabelle. But Silas won't let him have her, not without a fight. "I'll handle this," Silas tells Annabelle, his voice calm, steady. "You don't have to face him alone." Annabelle looks at him, her heart in her throat. She knows Silas is strong, but this man is different. Cutter is relentless, but Silas doesn't back down. "We'll do this together," he says, and for the first time, Annabelle believes him. Together, they hatch a plan to outwit Cutter, to turn the tables on the man who has come to collect his prize. But as they prepare, something becomes clear to both of them. They are no longer two people merely surviving. They are a team. A partnership forged through shared pain, shared survival, and now shared defiance. The bounty hunter may be coming for Annabelle, but he's underestimated her, and he's underestimated Silas, and together they'll show him just how wrong he is. The day of reckoning arrives. Silas and Annabelle stand together in the fading light, preparing for the inevitable confrontation with Cutter. The plan is simple, but dangerous. Annabelle, still hidden under the sackcloth, will lead Cutter into the woods, luring him into a trap. Silas, waiting in the shadows, will bring justice. The trap is set. Cutter, confident that he's finally tracked down his quarry, follows Annabelle deep into the forest, believing she's nothing more than a frightened woman trying to escape. But Annabelle isn't afraid anymore. She's not the woman who was sold. She's not the woman who ran. She's the woman who survived, and now she's taking control of her own fate. As Cutter follows her, he doesn't notice Silas in the distance, positioning himself on the ridge above. Annabelle, knowing the hunter is close, leads him into the open where Silas is waiting. The moment the trap is sprung, Cutter realizes too late that he's been outsmarted. In a few swift moments, the bounty hunter is caught. He's no longer the predator, he's the prey. Justice is swift, but quiet. There are no speeches, no grand gestures, just the simple truth that Annabelle is no longer the woman who hides. She's the woman who chooses her own path, and this is her moment. The next day, after the dust has settled and the threat is gone, Annabelle stands in front of the cabin, the sackcloth in her hands. The weight of it has been lifted, not because it's been taken from her, but because she no longer needs it. The woman who was once hidden, once ashamed, now stands in the light, free to be seen for who she truly is. She folds the sackcloth carefully and places it aside. The past is behind her now, and though the scars will remain, they will no longer define her. Jonas looks at her, and for the first time, he sees her for who she truly is. A woman of strength, of resilience, of fire. She is no longer the woman of the past. She is the woman who will write her own future, and for Jonas, that's the woman he's always known. The one he chose from the beginning, the one he will stand by for the rest of his life. The days pass in a quiet rhythm. The storms that had once raged inside both Silas and Annabelle begin to settle. The past no longer controls them. The fears, the ghosts, they are not gone, but they no longer hold the power to shape their lives. As the sun rises one morning, casting a warm, golden glow over the Oregon wilderness, Silas and Annabelle stand together in front of the cabin. Silas has built a small wooden arch. From logs he chopped himself, a symbol of new beginnings. There are no grand preparations, no fancy ceremony. The world around them is still wild, untouched, and raw. But here, in this small moment, they find peace. Annabelle stands with her head slightly tilted, her once tightly bound sackcloth now draped loosely around her shoulders. It's not a symbol of shame anymore. It's a symbol of survival, of everything she's endured and everything she's overcome. Silas stands beside her, not as a man looking to claim a woman, but as a man who has found someone to stand with him. Their bond has been forged through hardship, through moments of silence and understanding. There are no grand vows spoken between them. They don't need words to say what they both know in their hearts. "I've chosen you," Silas says, his voice steady, low. "Not because of what you were, but because of who you are now." Annabelle looks at him, her eyes filled with a quiet understanding. There's no fear left in her, no shame. There is only the truth of who she has become and the strength she has found within herself. "I'm here because I want to be," she responds, her voice stronger than it has ever been. "And I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding." The ceremony is simple, but the meaning is profound. There is no priest, no formal vows, no audience to watch. Just two people standing together in the wilderness, choosing each other. The forest around them seems to embrace their union, as if the very land itself recognizes that something beautiful is happening here. Annabelle's smile, though small, is one of true contentment. She is no longer just a survivor. She is a woman who has found her place in the world, her place beside Silas. As the evening falls, the fire crackles in the hearth, casting a soft glow on the cabin. Silas and Annabelle sit on the porch, their hands intertwined, watching the stars begin to appear one by one in the night sky. The wilderness, once so harsh, now feels like home. It no longer feels like a prison, but a place where new beginnings are possible. They have created something beautiful together. It's not a perfect life. There will be challenges, just as there always have been. But they now face those challenges together, as a team, as partners. In the quiet of the night, the forest seems to settle into a peaceful rhythm. The sounds of the wilderness, crickets chirping, a distant howl of a wolf, become a familiar lullaby, one that marks the beginning of something new for Silas and Annabelle. They have built their own home, not just from logs and stone, but from trust, from understanding, and from love. Annabelle rests her head on Silas's shoulder, the warmth of his presence grounding her, filling her with a sense of peace she never thought she'd know. The fear, the shame, the hiding, all of that is in the past now. She is free. And Silas, sitting beside her, feels a quiet joy he hasn't known in years. He has found someone to share his life with, someone who sees him for who he truly is, not just a lumberjack or a man of the wilderness, but a man capable of love, capable of care, capable of deep understanding. Together they have made it through the darkness, and now they are ready to step into the light. As the fire crackles and the stars shine above, they both know that their journey isn't over. It's just beginning, together. The Wild West may have been a land of hardships, of survival, and of loss. But for Silas and Annabelle, it was also a land of discovery, of finding one another, of learning to heal, of coming together to create something beautiful and lasting. Their story is one of redemption, not just from the world, but from themselves. It is a story of how two broken people, both scarred by their pasts, found strength in one another and built something that neither of them could have created alone. Annabelle, once hidden behind the sackcloth, is now a woman who has reclaimed her identity, her voice, and her future. Silas, once alone in the wilderness, is now a man who has found someone to stand by his side, someone to share in the joys and struggles of life. Together they have found a new beginning in a land that once seemed like nothing more than a harsh wilderness. The Wild West is often romanticized in history, its cowboys, its pioneers, its rugged landscapes. But behind every story of adventure and conquest, there are real lives, real struggles, and real love. The love between Silas and Annabelle is just one of many untold stories, a reminder that even in the most unforgiving places, love can grow, can heal, and can change everything. Their love story isn't just about surviving the Wild West. It's about thriving in it, about taking what the world throws at you and making something beautiful from it. And as the stars shine above their little cabin, Silas and Annabelle know that no matter what comes next, they will face it together, with strength, with hope, and with the quiet, unspoken bond they've forged through everything. Their journey is far from over, but for the first time they are walking it together, side by side, as equals.